Hey gamers, welcome back to the Pashcast, the only show that almost became a Jill sandwich. I'm Pash Morano, editor-in-chief over at Gamersyndrome.com, and you are listening to episode 5 of the Pashcast. Yesterday we talked about Dropsy, the clown. It's a crazy, funky, fresh, freaky, fantastic little indie title. It's going to be dubbed a hug venture. It's ultimately demented, but that's why I covered it. I kind of made an attempt to make the Pashcast a little weirder, just because I thought, yeah, I do like to cover stuff that other people aren't talking about, because gaming is not weird enough, and I don't think enough people care about keeping it weird. So you should go watch the Dropsy episode, episode 4 if you haven't, because it's ridiculous fun. And look for the game when it comes out September 10th, because it's going to be insane. Today, we're shifting gears. I do that a lot. And even though I do like to talk about the weird and the obscure, like any red-blooded gamer, I do like some of the bigger topics at hand. I just work that way. I mean, my first episode was about Fallout 3, and my third episode was about Zelda, two game franchises that I quite like. Zelda, love, really. And today's episode is about the Resident Evil 2 remake that was more or less confirmed as a thing that's happening. Not totally surprising, but exciting nonetheless. Capcom has definitely said that they wanted to work more on remakes, remasters, collections, etc., because their financials were saying, hey, that's the quickest way to make the most money without a lot of work. Though, while I will say, yay, Resident Evil 2 being remade, I'm then immediately going to bookend that with cynicism and say, you're fooling yourself if you think Resident Evil 2 Remake is going to be survival horror focused. Because it's totally not. There's nothing in my eyes that says it's going to be focused in that way. It's a painful truth, and there will be elements of some of the old Resident Evil 2 present. There has to be. It is a remake after all. I mean, but it's not going to be survival horror. Or it's going to be like probably an 80-20 split. It's definitely going to be more action-oriented than survival horror-oriented. And I think there's a couple of obvious reasons why that is. I mean, again, Capcom loves money. They really, really do, as per their usual standard bullshit of operation, time and time again. And I mean, every company loves money, but Capcom loves money in ways that is almost offensive as far as decisions against gamers, which sucks. But the Resident Evil 2 remake, and the reason why I say you're fooling yourself if you think it's going to be like this return to survival horror is, I mean, those styles of survival horror, as much as I love them, believe me, I am a huge Resident Evil fan. I could go on and on about the kind of feats I've had in my day and how much I've played Resident Evil and mastered it in an unlocking way, and really do love survival horror. I'm a realist, and it's not going to be that scary, or at least the tank controls gone. The probably the excessive backtracking would be toned down a ton. It might be a little more like Revelations, which does seem to be the purest sense of Resident Evil. Which is funny because that's more of a throwback to Resident Evil 4, though that does almost seem retro at this point. Maybe not retro in a traditional sense, but dated. So it might be a little more like Revelations, but even in the fact that I love the first Revelations, it still wasn't that scary. The atmosphere was good. Definitely better than 5 and 6. Ugh. But still, nothing. Not nothing. A far cry from what classic Resident Evils were. And I mean, I use the Resident Evil remake on the Cube as the benchmark there, because that is, in my opinion, one of the best survival horror games ever. And that remake was superb because it was such a pure sense of horror. I mean, another reason. I mean, money's obviously the top of the bullet point list of why it's not going to work. But that old school style of survival horror is dated. It's just inaccessible or not easily accessible. And the more accessible your game is, the more money you're going to make. Full stop. So that's why I don't think a lot of Resident Evil 2's trappings are going to be carried over. Secondly, I mean, both Shinji Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil, and the man who directed Resident Evil 2, Hideki Kamiya, who are infamous designers if you don't know him. I mean, obviously Mikami's done Resident Evil, but he's also done a ton of other great games, worked on them. Kamiya is basically the action master. I mean, after Resident Evil, working on the Resident Evil series and directing Resident Evil 2, I mean, he made Devil May Cry, he did Beautiful Joe, we got Okami out of him, he made the amazingness that is Bayonetta. I mean, this guy is action-oriented to his core. And I remember even reading the Iwata Asks in talking to Hideki Kamiya. And, he was talking about Resident Evil 2 and how he made radical decisions as the director to kind of put it in a more fast-paced in a more fast-paced environment. I think there were a couple other examples of ways that he was kind of going opposite Mikami. Not necessarily in an offensive way, but just in a way to kind of amp up the game. And it totally worked. Resident Evil 1 is a classic, but damn is it archaic. You look at Resident Evil 2, still some of the same issues. Way more revered in this day and age than Resident Evil 1. To just about any fan, Resident Evil 2, while maybe not as revolutionary as Resident Evil 4, would be considered on many lists of top tier games, like, one of the best 90s games, one of the best survival horror games, one of the best PlayStation games. Like, it just tops them because it's just so well polished. And while I do think it is a survival horror game through and through, as an excellent example of it, there are way more action stylings, and that's totally Kamiya doing his thing. And actually, I don't know if I've ever heard his name pronounced, so I might be butchering that, and I apologize thoroughly. He moved in that direction. He's always been that action guy. Resident Evil 2 has always been a little more actiony than its predecessor, and it totally benefited from it. And Mikami himself, he moved into more of the action arena because, even the stuff he did that was survival horror based, like when he worked with Suda on Shadows of the Damned or Vanquish, straight up action. Looking even back to Resident Evil 4, which is kind of the new standard for Resident Evil games, that had its moments of scariness. It had a great atmosphere. Totally not survival horror. Like, not at all. Not at all. It had some thrills because it's a well-made game and there was room for it. But it reset the standard for what a genre was going to be. And while I can cite other things like Five Nights at Freddy's and like Amnesia and Slender Man, a lot of indie stuff, actually. The list goes on. I've played a ton that do kind of embody that old school sense of survival horror. I don't think that is AAA material. And while I've decried the AAA model again and again, and I think there's absolutely room and absolute quality in survival horror, we go back again to Capcom and how they want to make money. And if it doesn't fit the AAA model, it's out the fucking window. I mean, Capcom's a lot of huge companies like Capcom have demented standards. I mean, look at their sales expectations for a lot of their games. I mean, in their opinion, Resident Evil 6, and I really don't want to defend this game, undersold, didn't meet expectations. That sold like 5 million copies in a matter of months, I believe. Same goes with a few of their other titles. And if you think those expectations were unreasonable, can you imagine what Capcom is going to want out of Resident Evil 2? A remake? And that's a remake. They could have just said, let's do a remaster, because that's going to be super easy. And then you maybe would have seen more of an old school throwback, because it would have just been like an HD polish. Probably more like the remake on the GameCube. That was wonderful. But, I mean, a remake's a whole new ballgame. And if it were a remaster, you'd probably get the Cube treatment. I think a remake, it's hard to say that they're not going to use a modified version of Resident Evil 4, if not the engine from Revelations 2, because it just makes the most sense. I mean, you'll even be able to play as Leon in the game. I mean, the visual dissonance between seeing Leon in a Resident Evil game with the behind the camera thing or without seeing it would be jarring enough. I think that there's such a standard for Resident Evil 4 and how well it performed. There's nothing about Resident Evil 4 you can look at aside from kind of mourning the death of traditional survival horror that doesn't say this is a success. And that's absolutely what Capcom wants out of every game. That is most certainly what they're going to be demanding out of Resident Evil 2. So with all of that in mind, I just think purists should be hesitant, not in their excitement of the game, but at least cautious of what they're going to get, because they're going to get a great game. They're going to get an awesome experience, and they're going to have a lot of fun, and it's going to be great to revisit Raccoon City, but I just don't think it's going to be as scary this time around. If you love Resident Evil 4, or you like the current model that Revelations represents, you're probably going to be thrilled. But if you're looking for that old school tank control, ink ribbon, almost no ammo, like dead limp while running away from a liquor, sorry guys, I think you're fooling yourselves, because I just don't think it's going to happen. Let's see here. And actually, that's the Pashcast. Kind of succinct today. Still over 10 minutes. I can't seem to nail that. But yeah, that's why Resident Evil 2 Remake, why I think you're fooling yourselves that it's going to be anything but updated. Because of Capcom, because of money. But yeah, that's actually the end of week 1 for Pashcast. The current model of Pashcasts are at their consistent rate are absolutely unsustainable. If you only knew how late I was up making these. They're fun, and I love doing them, and they're not going away anytime soon. But I'm kind of going to start to pace them a little more. I'm thinking of doing the old classic Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the full-blown Pashcast. The Pashcast being audio and visual humor mixed into one. Still going to do maybe like Pashcast speedruns, maybe like 5-minute blips on my off days, or the days that full-blown Pashcasts aren't happening. So you'll still get some thoughts, because I'm always reading the gaming news, and I'm always excited about gaming. But if I don't take some time off to work on Gamer Syndrome more, and actually just play a video game, I'm going to run out of material. But in exciting related news, I am going to be reobtaining an Xbox One, and I'm totally going to be playing the shit out of Rare Replay, and eventually gearing up for MGS5. So, exciting times ahead for Pashcast. And for anyone who is really on the ball and paying attention, I'm going to bookend this post with a mini Pashcast to introduce my first ever interview I'm going to post, which was with a Rare producer that I caught up with at E3 on Rare Replay, which is coming out in 2 days' time. So there you go. Thanks for listening, guys. Pashcasts are off to a great start. I'm loving the support. And I appreciate you coming back, because there's going to be plenty more where this came from. I'm Pash Ferrano, editor-in-chief over at GamerCentral.com, and this has been Pashcast Episode 5. Check you later.